Hello, YouTube. Uh, this is another one of the entries in my deck measuring contest series, backed by popular demand. This is going to be a wizard deck. I usually try to color coordinate, so wizard decks would be in blue sleeves. This is a shout out to Matt, one of my new fans, who requested specifically for more in the deck measuring contest series. And Matt, if you saw the fakakta setup that I got with this camera going on here, you would laugh your ass off. But this is what I call the nuclear option wizard deck, and I want to break it down for you. I could be a little all over the place while explaining it, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think you'll get the gist. Just to start out here, I only have one ally in this entire deck, and it's the Make Overlord. And this is basically for a contingency for stuck cards, for when the other guy has bleed effects for whatever reason. So because when it comes into play, squish stuck card. So when you're playing against a bard and the inevitable trombone or final countdown comes out, because there's a lot of draw effects in this deck too, then you're not completely hosed 5 seconds in by a lucky draw. I also have land. It's the only location in this deck because it gets real expensive real fast when you're trying to do that. The combination that this deck is pretty much made for. This is supposed to be a turn 5 deck. So that's kind of what I built it for. So you're trying to basically win by turn 5. You're trying to overextend yourself, win by turn 5, get everything done. Which means you also need the Staff of Magic, which is a V-Rare card, and as such, it was very hard to get. So I only have this one. Is the only one that's not in my book, which is the where the first one goes in everything. That's my display only. So the Staff of Magic is pretty necessary to get that, to augment your wizard card to make sure that the mischiefs that you play at the end are worth 2 less. They cost 2 less instead of 1 less. The slow-moving minion, they have, that's again a contingency loot to basically you do that, you discard a monster, and you can stop 4 damage. So when you play that some pain, some gain to draw 4 cards, you're not, you don't have to take those 4 damage if you've drawn this earlier. So you can go ahead and take, you can get the 4 card draw, maybe get some of your combos out, or in your hand, rather, and you're not immediately down 20% of your health right off the bat. The Talisman of Take That, again with the contingencies. I'll do the contingencies first, then we'll get into the meat and potatoes on the bottom here. The Talisman of Take That is when you play a Mischief card that deals damage. This deals 1 damage to target hero. It basically augments the endgame strategies. It's a wizard deck, so you know that the kabooms are coming. So this turns kaboom into 6 instead of 5. And then you have 3 magic missiles. In my opinion, if you have a wizard deck and it doesn't have 3 magic missiles in it, you're kind of doing it wrong. That's like the weapon that you need in a wizard deck. That's pretty much what you need there. So that's just utility. And then we get into the fuel for this particular deck is the monsters. So what I have chosen, your mileage may vary, the Celestial Conjurer, which is fun because you can just, it allows you to spill cards when you pull them out, and then play a Mischief should you pull one. But he doesn't do any damage himself, and he does cost a lot, so he's good just as a throwaway monster for your underground monster fight, for your slow-moving minion, for other things that are fueled by discarding a monster. Or if you can actually get him out, or bluff with him because he does cost 4 gold, make him run away, stuff like that. You have the Bromunculus, which means that, you know, you put him out if he actually lets it go for a 3 gold monster. You take the extra damage, give him 2 extra, that's 5 damage, that's 1 less kaboom you have to do later. I put 2 of those in. That's more for later on discarding for other stuff we'll get to later. The used card dealers are there for contingencies, for stuff that you may have had to spill or discard, for other stuff to get it back, to make sure that you have those combos later on. Used card dealer is one of the most useful cards in the entire series, in my opinion. Dr. Feelbad, I just like that one because if you have the gold, you can overpay and do that initial damage. So that's helpful. Heart of the Cards, that's part of the end strategy because it has that flaunt ability to both heroes take 2. So if he's at 14 and you're not, that's the end of the game if you have all 3 of them. So that's when you're watching for 14, just flaunt, 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 done. They can't do anything about it at that point. So that's the monsters there. So as wizard decks go, that's a pretty monster heavy on a wizard deck. But now we get into the mischiefs, and this is where it really shines because we have accessorize, which you just unzap target loot. That's all more contingencies. And we're about to see one of my cats. Hi, Sam. Well, he's not actually in frame. Get down, buddy. There we go. They get up on the table. You might see one. But the accessorize is a contingency to if they bluff you on the magic missiles, you get to put it back out, do a little more damage. Disappearing Act, that is for like putting Hydraxes back in their hand, for putting glass gongs back in their hand, for putting a bunch of stuff back in their hands. You know, it's a move target ally or loot back to their owner's hand. DJ Tim, bunch of other stuff that might just screw up your strategy mid-stride. Zorch, that can stop things in the middle, stuff with a survivor ability that might squish a target loot or something like that. I believe the Ferrous Oxide monster, the survivor ability... No, I think it's just at the end of the fight. Never mind, whatever. But Zorch does 2 damage to target ally or monster, so that's a nice utility to have there. Cautionary Disintegration. If they've gotten you with something in the past against a ranger deck, the Hairy Scary Bear takes out a target loot, and that can really mess it up if you have your Staff of Magic out, and that can really mess things up. So that's good to have out. Just go, oh, he put 4 gold on it, and I know he has that bear, so I'm just going to go ahead and Cautionary Disintegration because it doesn't get stashed, it gets discarded. and then Spellception. It only costs 1 gold, which if you zap your hero card, that means it costs 0 to go through your deck. Go get a Treachery, specifically a Treachery, which means you can't go get Forked because that's an interrupt. But go get a Treachery and put it in your hand. So 3 Spellceptions is always great to have. And then the aforementioned Some Pain, Some Gain. Take 4 damage, draw 4 cards. Extraordinarily useful right at the beginning, especially if you get the slow-moving minion out and you can absorb that damage. So you can put that out, get 8 cards out. The Violent Vivication, unzap your hero card, which becomes much more powerful. You take a damage, but you unzap your hero card for taking 1 damage, and if you have the Staff of Magic out, then another Mischief becomes 2 gold cheaper. And then Of course, no wizard deck would be complete without kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. That's where the nuclear option comes from. You need 3 mushroom clouds if you're going to have a nuclear option. And then forked. If you're going to kaboom, you're going to fork them. And that becomes your utility for finishing out the rest of the strategy on the kabooms to fill in the gap. Whether you need more gold with the underground monster fights, or you need more kabooms if you already have both of them, or whatever. Whichever one you need, you can fill that in with forked because it just makes another one. Or if you're playing against an orc bard, then you can fork their trollolol and make it go away. You trollolol there, trollolol, and trollolol. So you have that. Now the strategy is that you some pain, some gain. You get all the cards that you want. Just cards. You get maybe half your deck in your hand, and at that point, if you have the Staff of Magic out, you then underground monster fight, discard a monster, take 4 gold. If you zap your hero, this is free. So you get 4 gold for free. You do the Violent Vivification, you take the damage, you do it again, you get 4 more gold for free. You now got 8 gold for free. Say it's turn 5, you now have 13 gold. You Violent Vivification again. Your next mischief is now 2 gold less. You can now play 3 kabooms for those 13 gold. That's 15 damage all at once. And if it's turn 5, you've probably done 5 damage by now. So you do 15 damage. If you've done 1 damage in those 5 turns, if you have 2 Heart of the Cards in your hand, you're done. And if you haven't, then say you have Dr. Feelbad, or you have a magic missile to put out on the next turn, which does 2 damage to them in addition to any damage to the monster. You have the Talisman of Take That. If you have that out already, these 3 kabooms is 1, 2, 3 extra. So that's 18. You only need to flaunt once. Boom. Dead. So this is what I call the nuclear option. It's made to be a turn 5 deck. You can do this at turn 5. If you get exactly the right pull in exactly the right way and play in exactly the right way, you can actually win on turn 2. It has to be a perfect storm to be able to do it, but it can be done. So that is my nuclear option wizard deck. Tell me what you think. I will try to get more of these up as soon as I can. I have more decks that I have built since the last time I put up deck measuring contests. I already put out the Thief deck. I put out my Location Cleric deck. I put out the Gray deck. I'm going to try to put out a Bard deck and my Ranger decks as soon as possible. I have 2 Ranger decks that I like, including my Explodia deck, which I'm particularly proud of because it has 2 different ways to win spectacularly, which you may have actually seen on the Munch Live episode Dumpster Fire, where I actually beat Tank with my Explodia deck, but not with Explodia, with the Dumpster of Doom, which is a really great card. So that was a fun one too. But I have won with this deck many times against both Tank and Corey. So tell me in the comments, what do you like? What would you do different with this deck? I've tweaked it several times. What do you like? What do you don't like? And just keep it going. Tell me what you need. Be sure to like, share, favorite, subscribe, pay it forward, send us money, be excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.